Just a quick video about the AT80 that I'm currently making. I thought I might as well talk over it a little bit because that makes it easier to bring some information across. First of all, this is the model itself. I think it turned out pretty well. It's yet again the most complex model that I've made so far. It has the full exterior, obviously, which is as accurate as I could get it, including the belly, which was kind of complicated because there's not a lot of detailed shots of it. There's also an interior, so both for the head and the torso as well, including a upper section. And you cannot get into the vehicle from down here, so I don't know how people running servers and having this vehicle on are going to solve that, but I think there's some creative solutions going to pop up. You can open the doors from the sides here. You just press E on them, and that will allow you to access the interior. Obviously, when the doors are closed, you cannot shoot through, so that's quite cool as well. And in here you got a couple of things. So first of all, there's the passenger seats just here. There's 8 of them down here, and then if you go back here, there's a ladder, and you cannot go up. There's a physics mesh here. I didn't think it would make sense to have players walk up here, but you can press E on the ladder, and that makes you enter one of the available seats up here. And when you get back out, you don't pop into existence somewhere over here, but you get teleported to the bottom of the ladder. Same goes for these seats. You can get into them, and then when you get out, you get teleported just in front of it. From here, there's also these 2 doors. You can open them as well, and I don't know what you would do in here, but yeah, that's a thing. I don't think it's really necessarily a good idea to have people walking around in here while the vehicle is moving, even though it's moving quite slowly. It's hard for me to test this because I'm mostly solo deving. You can also press E on this hatch here, which enters you into the head. And as you can see, when I move my mouse, the head will try to correct itself towards where I'm looking. And if the head can't make up for it anymore, the whole vehicle will do some little steps and try to turn towards the angle the player is looking at. The crosshair will turn red if you cannot reach that location with any of your weapons. It will turn yellow if you can reach it with your side turrets. And then finally, it will turn white once the main guns are in range. There's some nice animation for those main guns as well. And obviously the side turrets follow the cursor as well. To a certain degree, obviously there's some limitations. You can control the walker just by regular WASD, as you would expect. It's quite slow, but in my opinion that's how it's supposed to be. It's a super massive, huge craft, and the whole point of it is being slower but menacing. I still did include a sprint key, so you can press shift and about double its speed. And just to speed things up, I'm going to bring the whole vehicle over to those rocks to show you the feet adjusting to the ground. So that's what I talked about with the pose parameters. You can get the walk over some complicated terrain, and they will try and adjust the legs so it doesn't look stupid. So there's a boulder coming up, and as you can see, the leg was raised a little bit, so it makes sense. They won't be clipping through the floor anymore, and what makes it look super convincing. Also, when you're turning, the hips adjust their angle as well a little bit, so it doesn't look as if you were sliding sideways along the ground. This obviously has some limitations. I didn't make it so the walker could walk up ludicrous steep angles. So obviously if you try to walk over a ledge, it will not work. One leg is fine, so it can get one leg down a cliff, as you can see here. and it will sort of like hang its feet off the ledge. And then once you try to go any further, the walker will lose grip and struggle a little bit, but well, yeah, finally fall over. This wasn't really a good example. Usually it looks a little bit better, but you can also see those angles over here, and I'll demonstrate a little bit better how the walker behaves. I'm also going to turn on this machine, which does some funny stuff for later. So I'm going to spawn another one here and start to walk along these angles. When you have a look up here, there's also a pitch and roll indicator. The vehicle has two limitations, so a pitch limitation and then a roll limitation, which I'm showing off now. Obviously the walker would be able to walk up steeper angles and it could bank towards its side. So I made the roll angle limited to 20 degrees, so anything above that and the walker will fall over, which you will see once I hit that 25-degree slope. As you can see just in a minute. So once the walker steps on that slope, it cannot make up for the angle anymore and it will fall over. From here on, you cannot control the vehicle anymore, and I think that makes for quite a nice role-playing feature. Also, maybe you noticed I wasn't being teleported back inside the vehicle anymore, because that mostly just got people stuck. But you can still access the interior, so I think that's going to make for maybe a nice set piece as well. Maybe have some things going on here. Oh, this machine is doing its job well, so I'm going to show off that as well. I showed that in a previous video, but I think it's just really fun, and I also improved it a little bit. So obviously the walker's legs would be quite strong, and that's what I tried to mimic here as well. I made them so they interact with the world physically. So as you can see, it takes some steps and also destroys whatever is blocking it or underneath the feet. And that can be quite fun. I can imagine stepping on some rebel scum. I also made it so the camera is quite good to see straight in front of you, because it can get quite frustrating if you're back here. You cannot really see what's going on. But having the camera all the way up here in third person, I think that works pretty well. And also from first person, you can have a pretty good view as well, which was not that easy given the small window. I'm just going to leave the walker here. Another important thing that I thought would need to be included is being able to pick up the walker. I only got the Republic LAAT here, but as long as you use this vehicle as a base class and inherit your own vehicle from it, you will be able to pick up the walker. I don't know exactly how the code works, but I'm pretty sure whoever is going to try and figure that out will pull it off. Another thing that I changed is that with the ATTE, you can only drop the walker once you're at a certain height above the ground, so you need to get quite close towards the ground. But it didn't work with the long legs of the AT-AT walker. And also I think it's quite cool to drop the walker from a bigger height, sort of like a landing craft, or I don't know. And since the legs adjust towards the ground, it kind of looks like it's a soft landing as well. So if I just drop the walker here, you can see that works fine as well. Yeah, so I think that's probably about it. There's one last thing that I wanted to show, and that is local gravity. As I said before, I don't think it's a good idea to have people walking inside of here while the walker is also moving. And there's a solution for it if you really want that to work. It has some other drawbacks, but it's still quite interesting, and I wanted to make it work with that. So I'm just going to enable that add-on here, and I'm going to make a similar add-on to what Luna did for the LAAT. So you can just subscribe to that as well on top of the AT-AT, and then it will just automatically apply the local gravity to it. And that's what I just enabled here. So if I spawn another walker here, you're probably not going to notice much, but right now I'm inside a local gravity. So if I place the walker on a slope like this, and I get into the walker, you can see that my local field of view is still relative to the interior, and the world around me seems angled. It messes up the pressing E on the things a little bit. So for example, it works fine for these doors, but I cannot close the blast doors anymore for some reason. So I don't know if it's a good idea to have this enabled, but I thought it's a pretty cool, interesting feature that I might as well include, because if you don't want to have it included, you can simply not subscribe to that add-on and it works fine. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show about the walker that I'm working on, and now the mandatory thing that I always do, and then I'll be off.